Oi, pessoal, eu tô aqui com o Mikael Kasurinen, é o diretor criativo de Control Resonant. How are you doing?
Yes, hello. I'm doing great. Hi, everybody.
So, you and the team play around a lot with color in the first Control. You have a seemingly limited palette at first glance. Your reds, your grays, your greens. And how does that sort of limitation, that self-imposed limitation, factor in the environment and the enemy design?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So visual design is obviously really important to us. So whenever we think about these different strange forces that exist within the world, we want to add a visual identity to them. So whenever we see his, obviously there's his red color that kind of pierces through the kind of image and so on, and getting that right was really important. And the same with mold, we have this kind of a bluish turquoise kind of a look to it and so on. So colors are important. Each one represents something. With the new kind of a thread that we're introducing now, it also has a color. I don't know if people really see it like that, but we call it the holy yellow that kind of pierces through the sky and so on. So yes, colors are important to us, and it does cause problems sometimes, yes, because it creates situations where we're like, okay, let's have some red here, and then the question pops up, but hey, does that indicate that there's his presence nearby and so on? But I don't think it's necessarily a limit. I think it's more just talks about the power of visual design that it has in the world. And it just means that we need to be aware of it and be very sometimes restrained in regards to how we choose to utilize these things across the experience. But yeah, colors are really important to us. And also I think the part of the kind of experience in the first game, for instance, was that it's a pretty kind of a gloomy place with this kind of a gray concrete surfaces. And breaking that with color was very important. The challenge changes a bit now that they kind of go into the outside world, because the human environments, the urban environments, are of course more colorful by nature. So we need to think a bit about how do we arrange these environments and so in such a way that we don't lose that same kind of a readability of what these different kind of elements would be in the middle of all that more chaotic parts of the city and so on. So definitely a challenge, but I would like to imagine that we're pulling it off.
Yeah, the first Control, I must say, made me fall in love with brutalism, made me get to know the style and really get into it.
Yeah.
To follow that up, did the team face any challenges when integrating gameplay and environmental design for Resonant? Of course, in the first game, there's all the destruction stuff that you had to do with Jesse's ability, for example. Anything of the sort come up during the making of the game?
Yeah, when we were building the first game, one of the things that I wanted to achieve was that we do the best telekinesis gameplay ever, and we had to build the whole world with that in mind, so that every piece of furniture or every surface can react and behave in a believable way, and is also controllable by Jesse in the world. So a huge amount of effort went into that in the first game, and it was crucial that it was a decision that happened early on so that it would be possible. And of course, with the more limited space that we had within the oldest house, we could really embrace destruction and, still without breaking, so let's say, the readability or consistency of the world. Okay, so now that we step into this experience and with Dylan and so on, who has another set of abilities, some of them, of course, dealing with telekinesis as well, but because the world is more complex, more has more different edges to it and many more different kind of layers of human chaos and so on, it gets immensely more complicated to achieve similar kind of a simulation and physics like in the first game. So we had to make a choice in regards of that and simplify certain things. But then one thing that kind of became obvious early on was that if we really want to do these gravity shifts properly, we need to think about the whole world with that in mind. So even though the images that you see of the game look chaotic, Manhattan looks genuinely like messed up and warped and folded into itself. But nothing of that is like random. It's thought through with the gravity shifts in mind. So every surface that looks walkable is actually walkable. So we wanted to kind of follow through in the visual design that it remains true. And yeah, being able to kind of create the environments that work with the gravity anomalies as expected, not just with Dylan, but also with enemies. So everything that the player can do, the enemies can do as well. So a lot of work went into that, a lot of collaboration between the animation team, the environment art team, the level design team, game design team, coding team, like a lot of coming together had to happen so that would be possible.
A lot of method to the madness.
Yes, absolutely.
So next question actually is, well, Dylan is a very intense character. And of course, you've got going on this very visually striking sort of gameplay this time around, as you've mentioned. So what I was thinking further about the combat systems, the action RPG thing that you're doing, how did Dylan Faden's character inform that decision to go for these new systems?
Yeah, when I look at these two games, so it's I'll zoom out a bit because it's part of the explanation in regards of the choices that we've done. So Control is an RPG franchise, and when I was thinking about Control as a whole, before we even did the first game, I wanted it to be about the world, and then through different characters we get to see what that world is like. And the story of the world goes forward by us having different lenses through different characters into it. So it was never about one person, it was always about the world. And we start off with Jessie stepping into the oldest house, trying to discover what happened to her brother. And we learn about the oldest house, and right in the beginning we leave the streets of Manhattan behind you and so on. The normal world is not part of it. And then as we kind of step into the second game, I wanted to think of these two games together, not like here's game one and here's game two, but more like both of these games are independent siblings, and they are not connected to other in a way that the other one is early and the other one they have their own reason to exist. They have their own approach, their own attitude, ways of thinking about things and so on. And together they form two sides of the same coin, like yin and yang. They
are characters themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They are characters themselves. We shouldn't look at them as products, that is the other one is a sequel to the other that does the same thing that the other one did but better. I don't want to think like that. These are two independent games doing their own thing, but together they complement each other, right? So when you take that thinking, yin yang and the other side of the coin and so on, Jessie going inside into the oldest house trying to find her brother, she uses a gun. Turn it the other way around, the second game. Dylan, he's always been inside the oldest house. The first thing you do is you walk through those same doors, but the opposite direction, from inside the oldest house to the outside world. And of course, Jessie uses a gun, then of course Dylan uses a melee weapon and so on. So we want to have this kind of a clear, interesting kind of a mirroring of the other game, and together they form a larger whole. So melee was right in that sense, and that also informs Dylan's attitude a bit. When we look at personalities, Jessie's a born leader, right? The first game is about her rise to power of being the director of the FBC. That was her destiny at the end of the day, and that was the journey that we witnessed in the first game. And Jessie is smart. She thinks ahead. She can sometimes maybe be a bit distant as well, and she can be also calculating and so. But she's a leader. She makes tough choices and figures a way forward and so on. And that's her character. Looking at Dylan, if Jessie is let's say, the planner, the engineer, the one who kind of thinks things through, Dylan is more the artist, the creative person who maybe goes with emotion more than thinking ahead, etc. So when you look at Dylan, he paints. When he jumps into a fight, he doesn't necessarily think through ahead, what's exactly gonna happen. He's improvising. He's making up stuff as you can go along. And that's a part of the spirit that he has, and we want that to be conveyed through the feel as you kind of fight through the enemies or traverse through the environment or even to face different types of quests and so on.
It's an extension of his approach to life, if you think about it, his fights, right?
Yes. He's a bit lost. He wants to find a sense of purpose and a sense of control over his own life, so that desire is there. But he doesn't even maybe realize it himself either. But when the game starts, he's there to help. He wants to kind of help with the situation. That's something that they share, Jesse and Dylan, that they are people who are ready to sacrifice a lot to help others.
There's a piece of dialogue actually from the first game that I'm often thinking about. It's when Dylan calls attention to how both him and Jesse have gender neutral names. Myself, I am non-binary, so gender is something I try to live in the margins of. Do you think that the stories of both games would have played out differently if the siblings had their genders swapped, or does that not factor in much?
That's a great question. I have a simple answer. If they would have been swapped around, no, I don't think it would have changed anything.
So my final question is just, do you have any message for your Brazilian fans? They're out there.
Yes, absolutely lovely to be here in Brazil, and it's been kind of crazy to kind of see all the fans who come to us and talk about how they love whatever we're doing and so on. It's great to be here. It's great to kind of also show that we care about all of our Brazilian fans and so on. So it's been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, the game is getting dubbed in Portuguese this time around too, right?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, very excited about that.